I used to think that if something was criticized, I was on the right track. It made me happy to actually be so criticized because it meant that the work was having an effect. I never did something because I thought I would get a good review because I could predict what reviewers wanted to see. It was more important to do something that really I believed in, that was something new, that's something that hadn't been tried, because really we have such a small space in our life of time that I didn't want to donate my time to trying to please somebody else, but rather to see what would happen if I explored a particular idea in a way that I hadn't known anybody else to do it. This is Lynn Hershman Leeson. I'm very happy to be here today being interviewed by Artforum magazine. I became an artist really before I could read or write or knew about what an influence was. I was always drawing things and I was always looking for things to read. So it was something that I innately had to do. You know, the magic of being able to take a pencil or a brush and turn a blank page into something else. That transformation was really a fascinating gesture for me. It was magical. I don't think there's anything that caused me to do the kind of work that I did, except that I was really fascinated by technology and what it could do. I have a very intimate relationship with technology in that when I was maybe 12 or 13, I did a drawing, finally did a drawing that I really liked and wanted to show everyone and tried to Xerox it, and the Xerox got caught in the machine. So I had to struggle to get that drawing out. But in the process of struggling, I became fairly intimate with the process of how something was made and the intimacy of the inner workings of the machine. So I felt just as tied to that as I did to the drawing. That really was the beginning of thinking of technology as a partner rather than something to just use, because it adds to what you think you can do. Well, I studied science, and I think that there are some great artistic and creative leaps in science. Those shifts, which actually have changed the way we live and the extensions of our lives, in understanding DNA and the potentials of it, I think have had a great influence on me. I think that science and drawing and art were always intertwined. I didn't see them as anything different. Which artist had the most influence for me is a difficult question because there's so many artists. But I think when I was trying to grow up and going on my almost daily visits to the Cleveland Museum of Art, the two that really stand out are both Turner and Cezanne, especially Turner, who did his most radical works in the middle of the night and never showed them to anybody. Because what we see in the museum is something that they wouldn't show during their lifetime, and was the idea of a secret, radical format of work that one did for themselves, and another one that they showed during their time. So I think the idea of that duality and understanding that culture doesn't always accept something that links them to a future was really important for me to know. And to know that other artists have had experienced the same kind of thing and found that solution. I was a good friend with Eleanor Coppola, and we used to have these tea sessions that seemed innocuous to everyone else, except that we were able to really look at possibilities for our lives, which were at that time fairly restrictive. So it was in these conversations that gave permission to both of us to become artists and to do what we wanted to do, whether or not they were seen or sold or shown or were part of anything. We just did them. A book that I have in all of the places I've lived, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, I mean, it should just say search for meaning or human search for meaning. But that tends to give me an elevated perspective when I feel lost. My influence, I think, has been possibly inspirational to people, to let them know that you can keep doing your work no matter how much people say they don't like it, or no matter how many people say it isn't art. I think you have to continue with your own vision and wait for culture to catch up or not. You know, it really doesn't matter. What matters is your time in your life and being able to put your time into something that you believe in.
I think that we've become kind of a society of screens, of different layers that keep us from knowing the truth, as if the truth is almost unbearable and too much for us to deal with, just like our feelings. We become comfortable with this kind of a distortion, and it's sort of a distortion of our sense of truth and value, just like our body distorts when it's been indulged and abused, self-abused. So we deal with things through replication and through copying, through screens, through simulation, through facsimiles, and through fiction and through faction.
And at one point in my life, I wasn't supposed to live very long. I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I think they gave me 6 months to live. And I defied that just by the belief of doing it, I think, a belief that I was going to survive. But what that did was create a very important part of my future where I really valued time and tried not to waste it because I understood how precious it was. I think for anybody aspiring to an artist, they have to really believe in what they're doing, not listen to anyone else, keep their sense of humor, and not throw anything away.